It was as if an occult hand had reached into the sea and caught fish. Shrimp. No, this is the Mississippi King welcoming y'all back to the finale of Let's Play Mega Man 11. And in this episode, we're going to complete the entirety of the Wily Castle. And I've got a lot to say about the Wily Castle, but in the last episode, we finished off the last two remaining robot masters, Blast Man and Torch Man. And in this episode, we're going to actually get around to beating the game. And that means we'll be doing the entirety of the Wily Castle in this episode, obviously. And, the one thing I feel I should say, the music to this castle is incredible. It's now my new favorite Wily theme in the entire series. Yes, it's better than Mega Man 2, Wily Stage 1 and 2. It's that good in my eyes. The only problem I have is that there's only one stage theme that plays throughout the castle, which is a bit disappointing. However, this stage is incredibly well designed. The first two Wily stages are amazing and are some of my favorites in the entire series. Look at how I'm just tearing through this stage. And just, going through it really quickly. Not one of my weapons will be neglected in these stages. I am going to be showing off all of them to the best of my ability, because all of them are amazing and all of them are great in getting through these stages. But we're also getting through them pretty quickly. I don't want to say I'm speedrunning this game or anything. I'm trying not to. It's not exactly the intention, although I have been practicing this stage a lot, and so my speedrunning kind of becomes what I do. I have actually practiced this stage and watched some speedrun techniques, which is partly how I'm so good at this stage, and how I'm able to just blaze through it no problem. It's because I've had quite a bit of practice, and these stages are very fun to practice as well. These two stages are great. It's just a shame that the third and fourth of Wily's stages kind of drop the ball. I'm not saying they're bad, it's just they're way too short. By the way, we're actually coming up on the boss, who is a very familiar face. Take a guess. I'll give y'all a hint. His name is very appropriate.
The newest model of the Yellow Devil, a heinous device designed with the express purpose of defeating Mega Man. Wily has equipped this model with a speed gear to ensure there's no possible way Mega Man can dodge its tricky split attacks. Though the Yellow Devil's massive body seems like it might be a better fit for a power gear, even Wily has to struggle with budget issues from time to time, so he decided to limit the upgrade to the classic split attack and trust that a speed boost to this old favorite would be enough to do the job.
Oh no. Oh dear. You know what that means. Oh no, why is this happening to me? Why are you haunting my nightmares? You seem intent on getting revenge against me for not using the pause screen glitch. Screw you, I did not intend for you to come invade my life and mock me for my skill. I don't like you. Well wait, I have the speed gear, so this fight should actually be very easy. What am I talking about? And I don't even need to use the speed gear, so yeah, this fight is actually one of the easiest fights of the Yellow Devil, or Devil Monsters, in the series. He's pretty easy, I find. Especially if you just follow what I was doing. And he's not actually that bad. This is Wily's Stage 2, by the way, which is another fantastic stage. I've also been practicing this stage a great deal, so expect some quality playing from me. Like, I am just really good at this stage. And one of the things that I should also talk about, I really love the music to these stages. I mean, the Wily Stage music has the epicness of Wily Stage 1 and 2 from Mega Man 2, and it also has the aggressiveness and coolness of Mega Man 3's Wily Stage 3 and 4, the heroic and triumphant sound of Wily's stages in Mega Man 6, and the emotional charge of the Wily stages in Mega Man 10. So it has all of the great elements that make this a fantastic score, a fantastic piece of music. And this game is just fantastic all around. And one thing that I feel I should say is that this castle is really great, and it kind of reminds me of Mega Man 2 in a way that, like, it starts off fantastic, but sort of drops the ball at the end, and that's a bit disappointing. And it's also disappointing that there's only one Wily stage, which means that this actually has the least amount of distinct Wily stage themes in the series. I mean, granted, Mega Man 5 and 6 also only had one Wily theme, but they also had two different sets of stages. So, I mean, I guess it works out to, like, still the same amount of Wily stages, but whatever. And, they still had more stage themes than this. Again, I'm not complaining about the music's quality itself, I really loved the music. I'm just disappointed that it didn't change with each of the following stages. And now we've reached the Crusher section in the top, and this is an awesome section because of just how close it gets. And again, I haven't really been using the speed gear in these stages because it's just so fun to fight without them. And that's not a knock on the speed gear or anything.
This combat robot is an offshoot of the developments that went into Wily's latest Wily Machine. It's equipped with armor thick enough to repel any attack. Wily originally intended to create two versions fitted with a power gear and a speed gear respectively, but when he realized how much time it would take to build the outer castings of the special steel used in metal helmets and Sniper Joe's shields, he limited himself to creating just one. That said, the incredible defensive capabilities of the resulting robot have Wily glowing with pride.
If anything, it's more of a compliment to the game's incredible level design. And the boss of this stage, by the way, is called the Mawverne. How do they come up with these names? Seriously! I've been asking this for a long time! And it's like, they keep coming up with bizarre names for the Wily stage bosses. Well, I mean, I guess it's better than the unimaginative names for, like, the Darkman stages in Mega Man 5 with Darkman 1, Darkman 2, Darkman 3, Darkman 4. It's pretty stupid if you ask me, but anyway, we've finally gotten to the third stage, and it's just a boss rush. Pretty much. So, yeah, you know what that means. It means a speed montage is coming up, and to be honest, I had a really hard time picking the song for this speed montage, but eventually I did decide on it. The Jakob Orbital Elevator theme from Mega Man X8. And why that? Well, I'll talk more about that when the actual montage is over. But for now, hit it! And, as I was saying, the Jakob Orbital Elevator is from Mega Man X8, and while I don't really care that much for Mega Man X8's soundtrack, that is one of the few tracks that I do enjoy quite a bit, because it had such an emotional charge to it. And X8 sort of had a feeling of finality to it. Sort of like how this game is the last in the classic series. Well, the most recent anyway. And I do enjoy that theme. I'll talk more about what I think about the game, even when I get around to playing it. But I do like that music. And it just felt appropriate because this marks the return of Mega Man. And that music just sort of feels appropriate for me. Appropriate for the scenario. And now we've reached the final stage, and we're already practically at the boss. It's just a long fall down to the actual boss. So yes, this is it, folks. We're beating Wily in this video. So he's actually weak to to the acid barrier. Obviously not EA, our Lord and Master is infallible and perfect. Don't come after me, EA. I guess I can't really ward off EA, since, they do feed upon the souls of the innocent.
This huge battle drone is the newest entry in Wily's series of terrifying Wily machines, like numbers 1 through 10. It is designed to resemble Wily's trademark skull logo. Despite its size, the controls are responsive and precise, and the sheer number of homing missiles it can launch from its rear ports speaks volumes about Wily's determination to bring down Mega Man and Dr. Light once and for all. Contrary to appearance, the side-mounted missile pods weren't attached backward by mistake. Wily just wants to give the missiles more time to slowly, inexorably close in on Mega Man while he watches with glee.
And so, he's actually fairly easy. And one thing about the bio for him, it's actually kind of wrong, because, it says that Wily Machines 1 through 10 all had skull motifs, but the skull motif wasn't introduced until, Mega Man 4, with its Wily Machine. And also, this is the first Wily Machine since Wily Machine 3 to technically not have a capsule form. So yeah, the final boss is easy. Very easy, in fact, I would say. And what you can do is actually use the Chain Blast in this fight. It does help a decent bit, but the acid barrier alone is pretty good.
The true form of the Wily Machine 11 and the final evolution of Wily's fight over the double gear system that began in his student days. With this inner gear-like module released from the first form's outer armor, it is free to soar from place to place, triggering the speed gear and power gear as if it had a mind of its own. Since each gear features a specialized cooling system, Wily can keep using each over and over without overheating. How did Wily manage to pack so many gears into the outer armor of the first form? Only he knows.
Just kidding. That's not all of the final boss, although this form of the final boss is also pretty easy, but this is technically considered part of the same form. So now it's time to unleash the powers of EA, of acid. Of course I wouldn't insult EA. Who could do that? It's not like they dig their own grave constantly. I make no apologies for my insults against EA, but yeah, this story is actually very interesting, and I've seen some people make some comparisons to, Keiji Inafune's relationship with Capcom's. Some person claims that it seems to be an allegory for it, and if that's the case, then, well, that's actually kind of interesting. But yes, we've now defeated Dr. Wily, and that means we're almost done with Mega Man 11. The only video after this is an extra video. Maybe 2. But I think I'll just need 1 extra video. To be clear, the reason I think that the Kickstarter for Mighty Number 9 turned into such a disaster was because, well, Keiji Inafune is not a game designer, he's a businessman. Now, to be clear, that quote is often taken out of context, because it's he didn't mean that in a bad way. It was just saying that he was often credited for things that he didn't really work on, and there's nothing wrong with him being a businessman and whatnot, and Keiji Inafune just sort of got way too ambitious, or at least that's how I see it. He just became consumed with ambition and just assumed that his project was too big to fail. And that's always a dangerous assumption, and that's just why it fell apart in my eyes. And this story seems to be about the reconciliation, if it's true that this is an allegory, this seems to be a story about Capcom wanting to reconcile their differences. And that's very cool, I must admire that. But yeah, we made Wily cry like an anime fan on prom night. But let's recap all of the different times we've managed to defeat Dr. Wily. It's been a lot. 11 games. All jokes aside, I think the reason that this game turned out to be great wasn't because of the double gear system like many people will think. It's not because of that. The reason that this game turned out to be so fantastic was because of the team behind it. They were devoted enough to do this, and they flat out stated that they weren't doing this just so they could get good sales, because the series has never been a massive seller. The highest selling only sold like less than 2 million units, and so they weren't expecting it to be a massive hit. They were just doing this to win back fans that were wanting Mega Man to return. And thus, it's because of their devotion that we got such an amazing game. This game didn't need to be as good as it is. In fact, if it had turned out half as good as it is, I would still enjoy it. But they went out of their way to make a fantastic game. What has now become my new third favorite Mega Man game. And that deserves a lot of respect. So I salute the team behind this. I salute Koji Oda for being brave enough to take up the front and being willing to actually step up to the plate and create a new Mega Man game. And I applaud the composer for composing amazing music. I salute the programmers and the people behind that, and the higher-ups who gave this the green light. They all never had to do this. This wasn't something that they were obligated to do. It was something they did because they wanted to do it. And that's why I think this game will be remembered a lot better than a certain other work that I've talked about earlier. It had a lot of goodwill behind it. And that's the thing that people felt that Mighty No. 9 lacked that, especially after the Kickstarter became a disaster. Well, only after it became a disaster, but still. And this game looks and sounds and plays incredibly. Although admittedly the sound effects are a little lacking, a bit disappointing. They don't really seem to carry the same crunch that the older games had, but it's still perfectly serviceable. This is why it's a game that should go down as one of the best games of the year, if you ask me. I've had a lot of fun doing these marathons like this retrospective, and my look through all 11 games in the numbered classic series. And it's been a long time coming. I started this retrospective back in February, and it ended with Mega Man 10, and it was all done to honor the release of Mega Man 11. And I managed to get it done before Mega Man 11 came out. And admittedly, these videos have been quite stressful to make, I must admit. They weren't easy. And, yeah, it was pretty difficult. I don't deny that this series has had its ups and downs, some things that I wish I had said, some things I wish I had not said. But it's still been great, and I've loved editing these videos. And it's just been great getting through this, and I've had a great time making these videos. As stressful as they were still games that I enjoyed. Even the weakest in the series, like Mega Man 8 and Mega Man 5, were still fun games in their own right. Granted, they weren't without their problems. In fact, even some of the greatest in the series had their problems, and I made sure to point them out when I saw them. But I also made sure to point out the positives when I saw them. And indeed, this game, like the others, has its flaws. This game has just been amazing to get through. And I must say, it's been quite the ride. And now that we're done with that, we actually get to save the game, by the way, after we beat it. And I'll go over more of that later, and what exactly you unlocked. But suffice it to say, I usually don't play the game from a completed file. Usually I just start a new game. I admire the work put into this game. It definitely feels like a lot of thought went into this game, and I appreciate all of the nods and references to previous games, but it didn't really feel like it ever just completely copied any of the older games. It had its own identity, and it wore it on its sleeve, which is more than I can say about Mega Man 9 and 10. Although, to be fair, 10 less so, but still. It did feel a bit derivative in several places, and that was one thing that did kind of detract from Mega Man 9. I don't mind it as much as other people, but still. And here's a pretty neat cutscene, by the way, that you get after you get through the credits sequence. It's kind of neat, but nevertheless, this game still feels very well designed. And I admire Koji Oda for being willing to step up to the plate, and for being willing to listen to other more experienced Mega Man developers. But we're getting to the end of this LP. Just one more video, folks. And it will be an extra video. And unless they update the game with DLC, which, by the way, this game contains none, EA, take note. And it feels very complete on its own, but if they do release DLC, then I will cover it. But for now, this is the Mississippi King signing out. So see y'all next time when we cover the extra video of Mega Man 11.